What's up, y'all? It's your girl T. Louise, and you are tuned in to Twisted 20s. Today's podcast episode is sponsored by my company, The Major Comeback, where we specialize in apparel dedicated to reminding God's people of their God-given purpose. And you can check out some of our merch at themajorcomeback.com. All right, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Twisted 20s. So first and foremost, disclaimer. Y'all, my voice is nasally, okay? Sinus drainage. Two, first and foremost, this day is really hard for me, but I wanted to make sure that I still got this podcast episode out. So if you notice that my energy is not as high as it normally is, that is why. And you guys know that I created this podcast to be very raw, very open with you guys. So my boyfriend had to remind me because I'm like, babe, I don't know what's going on. I'm not my bubbly self. What am I going to do? And he's like, still do it. You don't have to put on a persona for people. And so I didn't want to put on a persona for you guys, but today is really hard for me. I am really missing my mom. And it still feels like the day that I lost her sometimes. And I'm just learning how to deal with that. I started trauma therapy. And I know this is completely off topic from the podcast episode, but I promise that we will be getting into that. But I just wanted to let you guys know a little bit about what's really going on with me today before I get into that. And it's just hard. It's just hard. And today I've just been very quiet, and very to myself today. Very sleepy. I've noticed that when I'm grieving or when I feel sad or depressed, I sleep a lot. I slept a lot. I've been sleeping a lot this past weekend, and I started trauma therapy last Wednesday. So my body is definitely depleted emotionally and mentally. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys, but I also wanted to make sure that I still showed up, not just for myself, but for you guys, because God is really doing his thing with Twisted 20s. And I can't give up on you guys. And I will not give up on you guys. I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care if I'm depressed. I don't care if I'm grieving. I will not give up on any of you, because I want you guys to understand that you each have a purpose and you each are loved, whether you realize it or not. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and get into today's podcast episode. All right, y'all. So I feel like this episode is still so vital to our journey, to definitely our journey with God and just being obedient to the purpose and plan that he has for us. And the reason I say that is because I didn't understand how my tainted identity caused for me to, how can I say this? I didn't understand how my tainted identity led to my failures. And so I cannot talk about failures unless I talk about tainted identities. And so for me, let me look this up real quick, y'all. So tainted, I'm going to give y'all the definition of tainted so that y'all can understand where I'm coming from. Tainted means to contaminate or pollute something, affect with a bad or undesirable quality. So when I say a tainted identity, I mean a polluted, contaminated identity, an undesirable identity. And when I say that, I know I talk about my father a lot, or not really a lot, but I have talked about him in the past, in previous episodes, but he was the first person to instill certain things in me. He was the first person that had me questioning myself, my self-worth. He was the first person that instilled self-doubt on the inside of me. He was the first person that ever tainted my identity. The way he would leave and come in and out of my life had me questioning my self-worth. Why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't he want me? Am I not good enough for him? And I remember a very specific moment that also tainted my identity as a child and how I saw other people, because it's a difference between a tainted identity being caused by a parent and then a tainted identity being caused by other people, such as classmates, peers, friends, family, and things of that nature. I remember when I was in elementary school, I don't even remember how old I was or what grade I was in, but I remember the day. I literally can see this day in my mind. I remember, I think we had came back from like summer break. I think it was summer break. We had came back from summer break, and every summer we would take a family vacation. And so we had went to, I think, Myrtle Beach that summer, and my favorite color is pink. And I saw this t-shirt that said, "I am the big sister." I am not nobody big sister. Okay, I am the youngest out of all my daddy's kids, but I wanted that shirt because it was pink. I have told this story before in previous episodes, and I wanted that shirt. My mama finally, she broke down. She was like, "Okay, go on and get the shirt. You can get it." I was like, "Yes, finally." I was so excited. And y'all know how it is on the first day of school. Y'all get to school, honey. Y'all got y'all first day fit all picked out the day before, set out on the bed, ironed down, shoes picked out, accessories, everything. So I was so excited. I was so excited to go to school the next day and rock my new fit. Let me tell y'all, my confidence level was surely depleted before the middle of the day. Before lunchtime, my self-confidence was gone. There was a kid, a little boy, I don't even care to remember his name anymore, but I remember the situation, and I understand how it tainted my identity even more. He said, "Nice shirt." He said, "You sure are the big sister, fat girl." Now, to me, as a kid, I'm not equating big sister to my weight or my size. And that tainted my identity even more. And over time, actually, even at that age, I wasn't even a fat girl. I wasn't even big. I was slightly chunky. But over time, I literally equated my identity to a fat girl. That I literally became the fat girl. That's still an identity that I'm still struggling with to this day. I would probably write about that on my blog. But that's an identity that has been really hard for me to let go. Is the identity of the fat girl. I will really break that down probably in my blog, probably not on the episode, but definitely on my blog. So make sure you guys check my blog out at twistedtwenties.org. I think I have 3 blog entries up so far, and I'm working on 3 more this week. And so I didn't understand why he was making fun of me, but from that day forward, it really changed how I saw myself. And so at a very early age, I started to form an identity around that tainted view of myself. And so it was just so hard for me. And so I started creating this identity around how I saw myself. How I saw myself not worthy. I saw myself not accepted by others. And so I never really understood how my tainted identity led to my failures. And so this is the good part, y'all, because your tainted identity always connects to your failures. And I didn't know this, but God has really been revealing a lot of things to me this year. A reason why I say that your tainted identity is led to your failures is because when you fail, oftentimes when we fail, it's because it's because of a few things. Disobedience, we don't have a plan, or overall we fail because we really didn't believe in ourselves. for me, oh, and we also can fail due to laziness. Okay? And laziness is a whole nother thing. Laziness can be, a issue from a tainted identity too. There's so many things that are formed from a tainted identity. I could go on and on about that. I may actually write that down and may actually do a whole episode about tainted identities. But I say all that to say that my own personal tainted identity caused for me to feel worthless. It caused for me to feel like I could not obtain anything. So every time I would start something, I would stop because I would feel like it was unattainable. I would feel like I couldn't have it. I would feel like I wasn't going to succeed. Why? Because of that tainted identity of feeling self-doubt, feeling not worthy. I'm not going to be accepted. People are not going to they're not going to accept my business because they don't accept me. My tainted identity always had me questioning myself and my self-worth. Even though God was showing me what I could have, but what was in my mind was not what was coming out of my mouth. What was coming out of my mouth is, "Oh, you ain't going to never have nothing. You a failure. You not going to be able to do this." And even though some of those things may not have been coming out of my mouth, but it was definitely in my mind. And I learned something today at church. Our pastor, Pastor Nita, she said that the devil is always waiting to hear what is coming out of your mouth because your words matter. She said that when the devil hears what comes out of your mouth in the form of a question, meaning you are questioning yourself, you are questioning what God has already told you, he know that he has won because you have doubt and fear, and that has you. Doubt and fear has you. And so when she said that, I was like, So when we speak words of not believing in ourselves, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to do it. I can't do this. I give up. I can't. You can't because you're saying I can't. But you believe that you can't because of your tainted identity. Your tainted identity of self-doubt. Your tainted identity of not feeling worthy. Your tainted identity of being rejected. Your tainted identity of not feeling like you are capable of obtaining everything that God, one, has already shown you and what you already desire. I knew for a fact from a very young age, I just knew that I was not meant for a poor life. I may have lived poor in my childhood, but I said when I'm an adult, I'm definitely not meant for a poor life. I'm not meant to live check to check. I'm not meant to live a life of robbing Peter to pay Paul. I watched my mama do it. I'm not meant to have a life like that. I'm meant of a life of luxury, traveling the world internationally. God showed me things at a very young age. He placed desires in my heart at a very young age. I didn't want to live a life of poverty. But my tainted identity made me feel that it was all unobtainable. So when I would start and stop things, it wasn't because I wanted to fail. It was because of how I saw myself. And that is why I say that your tainted identity is always linked to your failures. And if you are failing because you are fearful and because you are telling yourself that you can't do something, most times when we tell ourselves we can't do something, it's not because we don't believe that we can't. It's because there are other things that are linked to it, like self-doubt, not feeling worthy. You're questioning your ability. You're questioning your ability to actually be able to make it happen. And not only that, you're questioning God. God, can this really happen? And soon I really started to learn how my disobedience led to lessons through my failure. I would not be able to record this podcast and tell you all these things if I didn't fail. If I hadn't have learned the lessons that I learned. And I really and truly believe that God has had me to go through certain things for a reason, not so I can just keep them to myself and keep my lessons to myself, but so that I can share them with others. Because if I've gone through something and you about to go through it too, I feel like I need to share it. Or I see you on a road of going down something that I've already been through, don't even go down that rabbit hole. I'm going to tell you exactly how to avoid it. I'm going to tell you exactly what's about to happen because I've been through it. So I really encourage you to really look back. And if you need to go back as far as childhood like I did and see how, when, and why your tainted identity happened. What caused for you to be filled with self-doubt? What caused for you to not feel worthy? What caused you to question yourself? And then figure out how that fits in to your failures. I'm going to give y'all my steps to recovering from those setbacks. Number 1 is to stop saying I am a failure. Stop equating your failure to yourself. You are not a failure. You need to separate the extension of the failure and your identity. Set healthy boundaries around it. I used to say that all the time. I feel like a failure. I feel like a failure. I'm a failure. That I literally became a failure. I felt that I was a failure because I kept telling myself I was a failure. And when you do that, you put yourself in a space that is not healthy. Tip number 2 is to reflect and consult God. Y'all know this podcast. I'm going to keep it real with you. The steps that I'm giving you are the same steps that I have taken for myself. And I feel that these steps can be used in every single aspect of your life. If you feel like you failed in your business, you need to reflect and consult God. God, what did I do wrong? Because I've said this before, God is the CEO and you are the COO. Had to change it from manager because I was like, you're really the chief operator. But reflect on choices or strategies that didn't originally work. And then ask God how he wants things done. Sometimes failure comes from disobedience of us wanting to do something our way. Submitting to God's will brings results. God's will is perfect and without flaws. Perfect and without flaws. I've said this before, that God is simple and we are the ones that complicate things. Tip number 3 is to be obedient. Being obedient to God's plan for you is important because obedience brings results. Not saying that there won't be struggle, y'all, because there will be struggle. But the struggle is a part of the journey. Embrace and submit. From experience, y'all, I have failed because I was disobedient. I never consulted God before doing anything. I just went with my own judgment and not God's. When I talk about my failures, I'm talking about business-wise. I'm talking about relationship-wise. When I was in college, messing with them little boys, I ain't asked God, should I be talking to him? Should I entertain him? No, I was just seeing for myself. I was being disobedient. I wasn't consulting him. I wasn't getting no insight on nothing. And that's why I ended up brokenhearted. That's why I ended up wasting time. That's why I ended up not in real relationships with those guys. I was only in situationships. A lot of us are in situationships with partners. A lot of us are in relationships that we really don't even need to be in. And that's why we really end up brokenhearted and in pain. Because we out here going by our own judgment. Relationships can be failures too. Relationships can be failures too. And so those are my 3 tips to recovery from setbacks, recovery from failures. Those are the only 3 tips that can truly and genuinely work. And I know because I'm speaking from experience. When I started consulting God about pretty much everything, even before I do my podcast episodes, I pray over myself and I pray that God speaks through me to you. I never want to speak on my own judgment. I always want to be led by the Holy Spirit when I record each and every episode. When I sit down and I schedule out my episodes, I allow God to tell me the order of each episode. I am just really in awe. Like after I scheduled out everything, I never even really understood how each and every single one went in order. But I'm just in awe, just like sitting back and I'm like, oh, this episode go with last week's episode. This week tie into this episode. But that is because I'm obedient. When I first started my podcast, I didn't ask God about anything. But then again, I just started my podcast to be a healing platform so that I could get back to myself, but so that I could also help others. But now I look at my podcast much differently. When God told me to start twisted20s.org, when he told me to start my blog, I didn't question him. I opened my computer and I wrote. I typed up a blog in an hour. I didn't question anything that he told me to do. I submitted to his will. And I 100% wholeheartedly believe that because I am being obedient, that I will not fail. I'm not saying that I will not have hurdles, but I will not fail. Because God's will, God's plan for your life is perfect and without flaws. I'm going to say that again. God's will and God's plan for your life is perfect and without flaws. I ask you to really and truly ask yourself, how did your tainted identity begin? How do you see yourself? Do you struggle with self-doubt? Do you struggle with feeling worthy? Do you question yourself? And then I want you to ask yourself, and if you need to, ask God too, because God will reveal to you everything that I'm telling you. He will reveal to you. How has your tainted identity led you to failures? What opportunities have you missed out on because of how you see yourself? What opportunities have you missed out on because of your tainted personality telling you that you're not worthy, telling you that you can't do it, telling you that you'll never have that? One more time, I'm going to let y'all know my steps to recovery from these setbacks. Number 1 is to stop seeing yourself as a failure. Stop equating the failure to you. You are not a failure. You need to separate the failure in your identity. Number 2 is to reflect and consult God. Reflect on what didn't work and consult God and see how He wants things done. Because sometimes we can fail due to obedience, and we can fail because we're doing things our way and not the way that God has intended them to be. Number 3 is to just be obedient. Be obedient to God's plan for you, because God's plan and vision for you is perfect and without flaws. I hope that this episode has encouraged you. I hope that it has helped you in some sort of way. You guys, make sure you check out my blog. I will have 3 new blogs posted this week. I have 3 already posted this week. From last week, I finally started trauma therapy, when God interrupts your plans, and 5 ways fear causes you to self-sabotage. You guys can check out and read my blog at twisted20s.org. And make sure you guys, my emails are still open. I have some submissions coming in, so I probably will start reading those next week. And I also will probably start giving feedback as well next week. I'm trying to gather everything together because I'm getting a lot of emails. But I just want to say thank you to each and every single person that is continuously listening to Twisted 20s every week. Y'all, Twisted 20s is doing numbers. Like, I cannot express how joyful and how grateful I am. God truly has his hand on Twisted 20s, and I'm so grateful to just sit back and watch him at work. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. Make sure you guys email me at submissions@twistedtwenties.org. You also can contact me through the website directly. And make sure you guys are following us on social media at the Twisted 20s podcast on Instagram. I love you. Peace, love, and blessings. T. Louise.